The chief correspondent is back, which means breaking news. What have you got?
FIFA has released a comprehensive list of national teams sanctioned in the ongoing World Cup qualifiers, a move that has sparked widespread debate and scrutiny across global football. The announcement comes amid South Africa's growing debacle in the qualification race, where controversies both on and off the pitch have placed the team under an unwelcome spotlight. The release of the sanctions list is seen as a decisive step by world football's governing body to maintain integrity and discipline in a qualification campaign already riddled with tension, disputes, and allegations of misconduct. The sanctioned teams include a mix of high-profile and lesser-known footballing nations, each facing disciplinary measures ranging from fines to stadium bans and points deductions. FIFA's report highlighted a series of infractions including crowd trouble, failure to control players, fielding ineligible players, and administrative failings by national federations. The sanctions are part of the broader efforts to enforce strict regulations during one of football's most competitive and financially significant stages, the road to the FIFA World Cup. For South Africa, the timing could not have been worse. The nation's football scene is already grappling with internal struggles, and the latest revelations have only added to the turmoil. Questions are being raised about the South African Football Association's SAFA ability to maintain discipline and order, both within the national team setup and among fans. Reports suggest that the team's recent home fixtures have been marred by unruly fan behavior, allegations of administrative negligence, and a series of poor results that threaten their hopes of advancing to the World Cup. The release of FIFA's sanctions list has put further pressure on SAFA, with critics pointing to the debacle as emblematic of deeper structural weaknesses in South African football governance. The disciplinary measures announced by FIFA are not unprecedented, but the sheer scope and number of teams involved in this round of sanctions highlight the heightened challenges in administering a global qualification process. Incidents of misconduct have risen sharply in recent years, as the stakes attached to World Cup participation continue to grow. Qualification not only represents sporting glory but also significant financial reward, global exposure, and national pride. Consequently, tensions on the pitch often spill into disorder in the stands and heated confrontations between players, coaches, and officials. According to the FIFA release, several African teams figure prominently on the sanctions list, reflecting a particularly contentious qualification campaign on the continent. Alongside South Africa, other teams have been cited for crowd trouble and administrative errors. The Confederation of African Football (CAF), which oversees the regional qualifiers, is expected to work closely with FIFA in enforcing these disciplinary measures, but questions remain about whether the sanctions will effectively deter further misconduct. Critics argue that fines imposed on cash-strapped football associations often fail to bring about lasting change, while stadium bans tend to punish fans rather than address underlying issues of governance and accountability. In South Africa's case, the problem appears multifaceted. The team's lack of consistency on the pitch has created frustration among supporters, whose discontent has occasionally boiled over into unruly behavior. The National Federation has been criticized for mismanagement, including scheduling controversies and disputes with players over wages and bonuses. These off-field issues have compounded the team's struggles in securing results, with critics now labeling the situation a full-blown debacle. The FIFA sanctions announcement has only intensified calls for reform within SAFA, with fans and pundits alike demanding greater transparency and professionalism in the running of the game. Beyond Africa, FIFA's sanctions list also features teams from Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Incidents range from the relatively minor, such as late arrivals to matches and breaches of substitution protocols, to more severe cases involving political interference in football administration and deliberate use of ineligible players. One of the recurring issues flagged in the report is the lack of adequate crowd control, with several nations penalized for failing to prevent pitch invasions, use of pyrotechnics, and racist or discriminatory behavior in the stands. These problems underline the broader challenge facing FIFA in balancing the passion and fervor of international football with the need for order and safety. The decision to publicize the sanctions list has been widely praised by some observers, who see it as a sign of FIFA's commitment to transparency. However, others remain skeptical, pointing out that similar announcements in the past have not always translated into tangible reform. The effectiveness of FIFA's disciplinary framework depends not only on imposing sanctions but also on ensuring follow-up action and monitoring compliance. Without structural reforms in how football is governed at the national level, critics fear that the same patterns of misconduct will continue to recur in future qualification campaigns. South Africa's situation has received particular attention because it resonates with broader questions about the state of African football. Once hailed as a promising hub for the sport following the successful hosting of the 2010 FIFA World Cup, South African football has struggled in the years since. The national team, Bafana, has endured a series of disappointing campaigns, failing to qualify for several major tournaments. Domestic football, too, has faced challenges in maintaining competitiveness, with financial instability and governance disputes hampering growth. The current debacle in the World Cup qualifiers has therefore reignited debates about the trajectory of the sport in South Africa and whether urgent reforms are necessary to restore credibility and competitiveness. The FIFA sanctions announcement has also sparked diplomatic ripples, with some federations reportedly preparing to appeal their penalties. Legal battles are not uncommon in such scenarios, as national associations seek to mitigate punishments that could jeopardize their qualification hopes. Points deductions, in particular, can have a decisive impact on group standings, potentially altering the balance of power in tightly contested groups. For fans, these disputes create additional drama but also uncertainty, as the final outcomes of matches and standings may be subject to lengthy adjudication processes. While South Africa grapples with its own crisis, the bigger picture is one of global football grappling with systemic challenges in discipline and governance. FIFA's attempt to clamp down on misconduct through sanctions is an important step, but it also serves as a reminder of the sport's vulnerability to both on-field and off-field disruptions. The World Cup remains the most watched sporting event in the world, and its credibility depends on the integrity of the qualification process. Every incident of disorder, corruption, or negligence undermines the fairness of the competition and diminishes the spectacle for fans worldwide. Looking ahead, the question is whether South Africa and other sanctioned nations will take these penalties as a wake-up call to initiate reform. For South Africa in particular, the challenge lies not just in avoiding further sanctions but in restoring faith among supporters and players that the national team can once again compete at the highest level. This may require leadership changes, investment in youth development, and a renewed commitment to professionalism across the board. Without such measures, the current debacle could mark not just a temporary setback but a defining moment in the decline of South African football. For FIFA, the release of the sanctions list underscores both its authority and its limitations. The governing body can impose penalties, but it cannot single-handedly resolve the governance and structural issues plaguing national federations. The success of these measures will ultimately depend on whether football associations themselves are willing and able to implement reforms. The South African case serves as a stark reminder of what happens when governance failures collide with the pressures of global competition. As the qualification campaign continues, all eyes will be on whether these sanctions will produce the intended effect of discipline, or whether the cycle of misconduct will simply repeat itself in future tournaments.